We've got a big update on the college football 26 front today, a title update that is much needed. I believe it is our second one so far of the 26 cycle, and this one's got a lot of big fixes in it. I'm going to go through some of the major ones. Obviously, this is a majority Dynasty channel, so I am going to talk mostly about the Dynasty fixes that are coming, but I will mention some other things that I think are going to affect gameplay in a big way in both offline and online dynasties. The first thing that I want to talk about is the very first thing they have listed under the dynasty section, and that is a fix in an issue where complimentary and competitive visits did not show up properly in off-season recruiting. And then a couple of bullets down, I'm not sure why they didn't just make them bullet 1 and bullet 2, but it fixed an issue where off-season visits were not giving enough influence. Now, they say not giving enough. It straight up wasn't giving any influence. So now it seems like off-season visits are actually fixed. And this is big because if you have been an online or even an offline Dynasty player, you know how frustrating it was that when you scheduled somebody for a visit that you didn't have the opportunity to actually utilize those points and you were wasting those points. Or if you already knew that this was a thing, then really your only chance at catching up to some of these teams that are bigger and have more resources and better team grades was essentially luck if they pulled off, which they weren't going to do. So now the visits give you an opportunity for, if it's somebody that's local to you for 10 points, you can schedule a visit, get that big boost, and then put yourself in a good position to get those players in the transfer portal. So that's really big that they changed that. They've also changed up some quality of life stuff for the encouraged transfers. So the spreadsheet was sorting by speed instead of overall. So they changed that out. They're also roster size counter would display incorrectly after viewing a player card. They fixed that as well. So just some tweaks there for quality of life purposes. Nothing too crazy there. Another thing is training results based off of online dynasties. When people were trying to manually progress, they weren't getting enough XP to actually justify using it. And then B, when you were in an online dynasty, you couldn't manually progress players at the same time. And so that would basically mean that when everybody else's players are going, you would have to wait an extra week in order to progress them manually on your own. Fix some other big things in the recruiting portion of Dynasty that were so annoying and made recruiting not a pain in the butt, but just super, it's like a nuisance to deal with. So they fixed an issue in which the playing style stats were not calculating correctly for some positions, and that would result in playing style team grade being lower than it should be, or being higher than it should be. In the end, it was probably hurting you more than it was helping you, which, again, super frustrating when you're going after a recruit and you're making sure that you're staying above that threshold for the deal breaker, and then all of a sudden you're out because it wasn't calculating those stats correctly for the playing style. They've also fixed team needs modules in terms of double counting signed players at positions. I'm assuming this is for the playing time deal breakers, and they've fixed a bunch of stuff for the playing time deal breaker that was just super, I'm going to say annoying again because it was really annoying. They improved the logic around playing time when other players at the position enter the pro draft. That is something that was so annoying, is that you would have guys technically on your roster that were declaring for the draft, but the game would still count them as players on your team. It's like, no, this player will not be on the team next year. They will not have to compete for them or with them for playing time. This should not be included. So they fixed that. It's a massive, massive fix. They also did the same thing for players that left in the portal. So when somebody left in the portal, they were still technically on your team, or at least they showed up on your team when the playing time grade was taking inventory on who was on your roster. So that is another big fix to the playing time thing that was just always an issue. They've also fixed an issue, and the organization of these bullet points is super annoying because they fixed an issue where off-season visits that were scheduled would process a week later than they should. And so if you scheduled a guy to visit in week 4, it technically wouldn't process until the national signing day, and it didn't matter anyway because the guy had already signed at that point. Again, not sure why organizationally they didn't put all these bullet points together in terms of off-season visits, but at least we have some clarity on the off-season visit process actually being better and usable, because, again, like I mentioned earlier, you basically could not use it. There was no use in putting points into it because it didn't have an effect. Now it seemingly has an effect and will help you which is really nice. They fixed an issue in online dynasties where you could see deal breakers of players on other people's teams. I don't love that, especially for me as a creator for the online dynasty. It was really nice being able to see who is a potential portal entry guy, what the deal breakers were to kind of get a better idea of who would be leaving and build storylines from there. So that's going to be a little bit annoying. Obviously, if you know the people in your online dynasty, you can just ask them. I'm not sure how many other people, watching this video are also going to be creators and trying to find storylines. But for me, this was a little bit annoying. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, you can't be serious. They increased the size of a player's season health pool at the start of next season, which is big because I don't know if you guys have felt the same thing in your online dynasties or even your offline dynasties. Guys' wear and tear goes so quickly, and it really felt like by week 4 or 5, even if you were doing a good job of rotating guys in and out, you were facing guys who are already at like a little over halfway through the wear and tear bar for this season. So I like that they've increased that a little bit more, especially when you're talking about getting in the college football playoff and you have an extra game, extra 4 or 5 games that you wouldn't have otherwise. It's something that you don't really think about. And by the end of the season, your guys could all be toast and you have no shot in the national title game. So at least with this, there's a bigger pool for your guys to pull from. So it makes it a little bit more forgiving for the current year in terms of their health. Other than that, the rest of the dynasty fixes aren't a huge deal, just cosmetic stuff. You see the Jim Thorpe is now the Paycom Jim Thorpe award. I didn't really need that to be in the game. Could have focused that time elsewhere on fixing some other stuff. Like maybe when you get to week 4 of the offseason recruiting and transfer portal, all of the playing times go to an F. Maybe you could fix that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, trying to find a common ground that we can actually get some fixes that are necessary rather than, hey, let's make the Jim Thorpe Award the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award. I digress, though. Let's talk about some other things that I think are going to be very important in terms of the gameplay side of your actual dynasties. So coverage-wise, they did a good job of adjusting coverages to really try to balance them out. So updated hook defender depth with underneath coverage adjustment to play at 5 yards. Updated hook defender depth with over-the-top coverage adjustment to play at 12 to 18 yards. Updated vertical hook zone so that it won't match when using coaching adjustments or custom zone stems. Updated 3-rec hook match logic to better defend a swing route from the opposite side of the formation and behind the line of scrimmage. That's just to fix some holes in the game that people have found that they can exploit coverage. Updated press animation logic to ensure defenders match user called press at the line of scrimmage. That's going to be super nice. Press coverage has been pretty hit or miss, at least in my opinion, so far this season. So that'll be nice. Updated cover 9 logic to improve coverage by that 3-rec hook defender guarding the running back crossing the field. So again, trying to take out as many of those exploits as possible. Catching-wise, they fixed an issue allowing receivers to hang on to too many passes instead of getting the ball knocked out in traffic. That's a big one. I have noticed that. I don't know if it was at the beginning of the game, but it definitely does feel like recently a lot of my guys have been, even if they're not great catch and traffic players, they have been able to hold on to the ball as they're getting hit. And, well, I love it for the sake of me winning football games. The realism behind it feels a little too video gamey for me. So a little tune here could make it that perfect line that we're looking for. And I know everybody's going to be really happy about this one. Back shots are getting reduced. We will not see that catch animation as much anymore. I'm sure everybody's thrilled about that. I know that a lot of the guys in my online dynasty were not happy about that animation, and every time it pops up, they get pissed off. There's also improvements to situations where collisions with the wide receiver at the snap would disrupt the time of the route. That was the most annoying thing because if you're trying to run a timing route, and you're expecting the guy to be there and be open, but he gets bumped off course on his route, the throw would be way out in front of him, where that timing route should have been hit, and it would be an interception. So hopefully this little fix that they have will make it so that your timing routes actually work like timing routes and not something, in the sense of, oh, it just the guy's going to get back on track a little bit quicker, but not actually fix the problem. So we'll see with that one. For the run game, I didn't see anything too big in this one. QB juke moves for halfback and wide receiver and wildcat formations fixed an issue where quarterback speed burst was not working as intended. So it looks like the quarterback will be able to accelerate a little bit faster than they had in the previous title update. They tuned power shed frequency and improved edge leverage behavior on outside runs. So to me, I don't know if this means that they will play a little bit more balanced rather than always be able to stack the outside, keep that outside arm free. Because at least in my experience, I have not been able to run the ball outside in this game the same way that I could in college football 25. And a lot of that, I think, is due to the fact that the edge defenders will always get out there and really play that outside edge and force me to cut up. Like if I try to run a stretch run, there's no way I'm going to be able to get that thing outside. So I'm a little bit worried that this is going to make it even harder to run the ball outside than it already is for me. So we'll see about that. And then this rare issue thing where the center's initial movement was incorrect at the snap. I haven't noticed that. I don't know if anybody else has. So I don't think that's a huge deal. And then they also fixed an issue where sometimes an inside zone handoff was using the outside zone handoff animation. So just a realism thing, just to make it look like a video game, or look like football and not so much a video game that wasn't very well polished. Run defense wise, they tuned assignment flow, consistency between RPO alert keys and peak logic. I'm unsure of what this actually means, but my guess is that the defense will actually play the run much better than they had been in RPO situations. I had noticed that when you would run RPOs, the defense would almost forget how to play football and not fill their gaps in the same way that they would if you were just running, say, an inside zone. So I think that would be the change coming here. And then they added logic for edges to play the QB on boot naked runs when in a contain assignment. I love this because it allows you to have some more control over stopping those, because when you are playing against somebody who loves those play action boots that are those naked boots, you get to a point where it's like, okay, my defense is not at all reacting how they should to this. They're crashing run every single time. Even if I go contain, they're still crashing run. Contain is really the only possible asset you could have to stop it, the only viable option. And now it'll actually work. So that's really nice to see. And then for pass blocking and pass rush, they didn't really change a ton. Sucks because I feel like this is the weakest part of the game. The offensive line does not block well. Assignment-wise, they don't block their assignments. And there's also way too many quick sheds for guys that are similarly rated, or when your offensive lineman is better than the defensive lineman. It just doesn't feel realistic. But some of the things that they did do that I think are at least nice is that you can turn on base protection by default. For me, this is what I like more. I like just going base default, and then if I notice a pressure coming, then I can slide that way. But a lot of the times what you'll notice is that you'll come out in a specific play, and the slide will be away to where the blitz is coming, and then you got to do everything to change it. I prefer to see a base alignment, because if they're not bringing any pressure, then I just want to stay base. I don't want to have to do all of this extra work to get to the protection I want to be in. Like if I come out in a formation, I shouldn't have to get to base from this slide that we're in, even though it doesn't match the personnel. I just want to be in base and then slide if I need to. Other than that, they didn't really add anything else into the game. Let me know what you think of this title update. For me, I think it's a little less than stellar. There's still some actual gameplay mechanics that I wish that they would fix, like I already mentioned with the offensive line. I also wish they would improve the running back AI logic. I mean, when you play any team in this game and they're controlled by the CPU, they do not run the ball well. No matter who it is, no matter who you're playing, you could be a 55 overall team playing a 95 overall team. The team you're playing will not run the ball well. I do not know why. There is no logical reason behind this, but it's been a thing that EA football games have struggled with immensely over the past couple of years. They just do not have a good running back AI system without having to massively tune the game. But then every time a update comes out, you have to go back and mess with sliders again. So I wish they would just focus more on just getting that stuff down. But we'll take it. I guess it's not, I wouldn't, if I was giving it a grade, I'd say it's a C-. Like, I like the off-season visits being fixed. But everything else just kind of felt like, okay, that was really take it or leave it for me. It didn't change anything too much. So C- is kind of where I'm at. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you want to see added in the next update, just because, again, the more we talk about it, there's a chance that it can get added. Some things are a little bit bigger of an ask than the devs can feasibly achieve in the time frame that they have. I mean, they're already starting production on College Football 27. So we'll see there. But just let me know in the comments below what you thought of this update, what you're looking for that they didn't add, what your favorite thing in this update is. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the flip. See ya.